Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, September 19th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. So I'm starting zoomed out here on the daily today, just for a little bit of perspective, so that we can remember that last week we broke the uptrend that we had in the market previously from those, June, July lows. That's pretty bearish to see, and it is a sign that the market might need a larger pullback in order to find buyers. And it can mean that on a larger time frame as well, which would basically be another way of saying this low right here may not have been a big enough low for the market to bring in enough buyers for continuation to the upside. So we may need to pull back down there again. So that's all pretty bearish, right? But then we need some perspective. We're day traders. We just trade whatever happens to the market right here today. And with that in mind, the first thing that catches my eye is the amount of excess that we have had to the downside up until this morning. It's been quite a bit. So now let's jump back. Let's take a look at the market profile. And we can see we just have a lot of excess above us, large gap, and continued lower lows, lower highs, and value lower every day all last week. So that, is a lot of excess to the downside leading to balance, right? Balance leads to excess, excess leads to balance. So if the market needed to go sideways today, that would be perfectly reasonable in my mind. So I would say my bias this morning is bearish to neutral. So, of course, with all the bearishness, with the momentum to the downside, they could easily keep it going lower today. But I just don't want to completely reject the idea that we may just go sideways, or we may even pull up with price. We may pull back into this little mini balancing area that we had for like a day in here last week. We might need to pull back up into there and test that before we go lower. So I'm not super bearish right away at the opening bell. The thing that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on is first yesterday's low, which we're opening basically on top of, and then the overnight low. So if we push below yesterday's low, that will be a little bit bearish, and that will tell me that we probably want to test that overnight low, which is at about 38.45. When we test that overnight low, if we break it and get resistance there, that is very, very bearish. So we will immediately be looking for the market to start to go lower. But if we dip below there and we don't come back up and find resistance and we pull back up into yesterday's range, then we need more information, right? So if we break yesterday's low, Friday's low, at 53, I would look for a test of the overnight low at 45, but I wouldn't get overly bearish until we get resistance there. As far as what to expect at market open, even though we are right on Friday's low, we are inside Friday's range. So I would look for chop. As the first move of that chop, I would look for a counter auction to the upside as the overnight inventory is net short. They opened up here and they're closing down here. So majority of their traders would have had to have been short. So in that first auction to the upside, we're looking for where we get resistance, right? If we get resistance right away at like 61, that's a little more bearish. If we're going to get back up to where the POC was from yesterday, around 38.68-ish, 70-ish, that would be a good place to find resistance there as well for chop to come right back down. If we're able to get through both of those, then we can start to look for continuation higher. But I suspect there's a lot of resistance just above price here. And probably however the market handles the chop in this range will give us some indications as to where it's going to go. Pretty much heading up to test the overnight high or heading down to test the overnight low. And then monitor for continuation from there. I know you guys hate it when I say it could go up, down, or sideways, but today is one of those days. Anything is possible. So we just have to follow the steps along the way, see what boxes the market is checking off. What is it telling us it wants to do? Please smash that like button if you have not yet. Market opens in 1 minute. 777, is Bookmap useless? You didn't mention anything. Yeah, I don't have any insights on Bookmap, particularly at open yet. Still learning. Okay, so the A period low is weak because it's right on top of the poor low from Friday. So that is a sign we need to come back and test that once again. And again, breaking Friday's low would look to test the overnight low. Okay, a little short covering rally. Good morning to Chillin' with Dylan, Pavel, T-Wark, Philip, Johnny, Novice Trader, J Trader, John Lash, Caffeine, Delta Bravo. Joined the brigade yesterday. Just go to the website and then click on the button in the top right corner that says Brigade Members Only, and then log in, and it'll take you to a page with the link to the Discord. Okay, no resistance yet. So that's, like I said, getting resistance on that first node would have been more bearish. So that's a little bit less bearish. We didn't get any resistance there. Nap, good morning to you. Mark, good morning. Arcaleon in the house. Chirp is here. Scooball, CCT. And Jack, welcome. Jeremy Jones, The Shaw, Blue Shirt. Kotik, Asmi, John, welcome. Asmi says, bit of a rally would be good to short back down. Yes, sir. Especially if we can get a retest of that trend line on the daily. Come back up, boop, reject off of that. Thing of beauty. Laura is here. Shahas, welcome. All right, well, we're getting some taper up here at the high. So it looks like we want to test that VPOC, that untested VPOC from Friday at 38.70. But we'll see if we run out of steam there and start to pull back down. Or can they turn 65 into support? Is anyone else hearing an echo when I speak? Hello? 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 Do you hear that? Hear that? Hear that? Thank you kindly. You know what it feels like? One of these days where the market could go anywhere. Feels like it's a good day for a survey. Let's get our groupthink on here. Where do you think the market's going to go today? Are we going higher? Are we going lower? Or are we going nowhere? Up, down, or sideways? Which way do you think the market's going today? John Lash, vigorous typing. No, it's just an old-fashioned keyboard, mechanical keyboard. Just sounds loud. I like to punch the keys like a typewriter. We got 194 people hanging out, 61 likes. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, I sure would appreciate it. And while you're hitting buttons, waiting to test this resistance, why not answer that survey? Where do you think the market's going to go today? All right, so if they can't turn this 64, 65 area into support that we're at right now, I suspect they're coming back down to the low. Remember, that is a weak low. Weak because it is only one tick from the open. Also weak because it is one tick from yesterday's low, which was also poor and in need of repair. Okay, they have the support for the moment. Okay, there's the test of the POC from yesterday, from Friday. Okay, so now as the market comes back down, can they hold 64, 65 area as support. All right, anyone else on the survey? Last chance. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Where's the market going? Results are in. 50% of you think we're going sideways today. 26% up and 22% down. You know what that means? We're going nowhere. Half the market thinks we're going up. Half the market thinks we're going down. That's a recipe for chop. So once again, just to sort of reiterate my point, anytime we're inside the previous day's range, we open inside the previous day's range, we expect the market to just grind up and down and have some chop. I would say, it's too early to get really bullish here, but if they can find support here, they can probably head up to try to test the overnight high, but it wouldn't give me enough confidence to trade for it. Because anytime you're inside the previous day's range, they can just reverse it on you out of nowhere. But if they pull back down to this 64 level and they find some support there, that would be bullish to me to head up and test that overnight high. But anywhere in here, it's kind of a gamble until you get confirmed support. Well, so far the buyer's doing a great job of absorbing the sellers. Delta, how do I use ticks and tick Q? Yeah, I'm using them at this very moment. So they're a sign of buyers and sellers on the underlying stocks. The ticks is the NYSE and the ticks Q is the Nasdaq. And so when you see them going higher, it's more people buying the underlying shares. When you see them going lower, it's more people selling the underlying shares. And if they're above or below the zero line at this particular moment, tells you if at this particular moment there are more buyers or sellers. So, for example, from the open, there have obviously been a lot of buyers pushing the market higher. But now that we're getting that resistance, what it's telling us, getting resistance at the zero line is that we're having trouble bringing in new buyers. So this was probably a lot of just short covering from yesterday, from Friday. People were short at the end of the day, probably looking for the market to crash and burn over the weekend. When we open inside the previous day's range, they get out of those trades. So now is really where we're finding out, are there new buyers who want to continue to push the market higher? And if there are, they'll be able to get the ticks above that zero line and keep them up there. If not, it's just the shorts from Friday getting flat, which would give us chop zone. We'd be chopping it up. All right, well, I would say I'm bullish enough now to look to test the overnight high, or at the very least repair the poor high we left behind yesterday up at 38.95. As long as we can stay above this node right here at 64. So as long as we can continue to bring in more buyers, get those ticks above the zero line, keep it going, we should be able to get up there and test that high from yesterday. So I would say I'm bullish above 64 to test 95. Roma, screw these buyers. Don't they understand what a bear market is? Gar. No, they understand perfectly what a bear market is. A market with lots and lots of rallies. All the better to get short against you with, my dear. Mark says several prominent options guys are saying that we are going to be stuck in a range for months and months, trading between 38 and 42. I mean, 38 and 42 is way too tight. But I could see us bouncing around for a while. Breaking that trend line was pretty bearish. Bigger picture on the daily. If we were going to have the buyers to take this market higher, we should have had them at that trend line. So if we don't have the buyers yet, what do we got to do? Pull back with price to bring in those buyers. We can do it with price, or we can just do it with time. We just go sideways for a while. Okay, so first thing that's less bearish to see is obviously the fact that as soon as we got those ticks above the zero, what happened? Sellers showed up out of nowhere. They were like, ooh, nice. Yeah, we'll buy that. You know, the opposite of buy. We'll sell that. We'll get short here. So that's a little bit bearish to see. But I still remain bullish as long as we're above the halfback. That's just a first indication that we're going to run out of buyers up here. If we're already starting to run out here. Screwball. I won't short against the trend if C breaks the initial balance, but shorting against FOMO buyers in the morning and short covering, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when we repair that poor high. Screwball, more interesting if the market can't go there? Yeah, that too. It's the same thing. A sign of the chop zone wants to chop it up. All right, so the last potential support is half back here. I don't have a lot of faith in it with the ticks looking like this. That's obviously a sign that that was mostly short covering this morning and not new buying. So if we lose the halfback, 38.70, I'm back to neutral. And then we're going to look to test 65 for support. If 65 breaks, then I'm looking to head back down to that opening price. Couldn't repair the poor high. We're going to head to repair the poor low. So the buyers have one last chance. Of course, now does previous support become resistance? Does this area around the 76 become resistance? All right, I'm back to neutral. It's too choppy. The buyers do not have it. They even had potential support from the bots on the 20 moving average with the 15-minute candles, and even that couldn't hold up the market. So there aren't human buyers. There aren't computer buyers. So if we don't have buyers at this price, they will probably need to pull the market back looking for them. Next support is 65. Peter asks, why do you consider today's high to be a poor high? It's not today's high that's poor. It's the high from Friday. And both the high and the low on Friday were poor. And that basically just means they didn't have good excess on the high. So they only had one letter at the very high of the day. You want to always have at least two. Two is the minimum for good excess. So if you don't have good excess, what is that telling you? That there's probably still people who want to do business up here. That they probably didn't get their chance. And the market loves to go wherever there's business to be had. Tick slap down again. It's funny how perfectly Market Profile's halfback is lining up with this big note of volume. I suppose it's because it was all the volume from yesterday. Never mind. Nothing to see here. As you were. As you were. Mr. Knife, looks like that 70-50 area on new chart for support. Yes, sir. There's some volume in there, and it's buyers. How do you know it's buyers, Charles? I'm looking at the total amount of volume that's in that area, right? We can see that here. And then we can see that it is majority green. So there's business waiting to be had down there at 70. But are they strong buyers? Well, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Do the orders fill, or does it disappear? Only time will tell. Stay tuned. So, moment of truth. Do the ticks get smacked down again, or can they hold them above the zero line? Ticks got smacked in the face for the third time today. How many times will these buyers get punished and keep coming for more? It reminds me of that old Dane Cook joke where he's like, going to the DMV is so terrible. It's such a terrible experience going to the DMV. It'd be better if they just punched you in the face the minute you walked in the DMV. You'd be like, oh my God, the DMV is terrible, but compared to the punch in the face, it's not so bad. Round 4. Ding, ding. Back for more. Seven Mile, is there any liquidity waiting further up on the footprint beyond 38.98? Probably not much. Yeah, a little bit. 3,900, 3,905. Looks like they're starting to put some at 39.25. Boy, if that's somebody putting a take profit order, they've got high hopes. Coop, DMV vending machine. What state are you in? That sounds great. Why didn't they just make it online? Oh, so you could get the printed card. Biden, in the case of a Chinese invasion, the American military would protect Taiwan. Have we ever made that as like an official statement? I suppose we have a treaty with them. The White House spokesperson talked it back. Fair enough. Caffeine, AMD, NVIDIA, Apple chips are made there. Well, sounds like they need some freedom. Send the warships. Scuball, okay, buyers are giving up, I think. I don't know, man. It's a chop zone. It's a chop zone with a poor high, a poor low from yesterday, a weak low today, but they got value overlapping to higher. I mean, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Wait, there was a gap on Friday too? I forgot about that. Oh, yes, sir. And now that you mentioned it, Screwball, this might be the fixings of the beginning of a balance area. You know, you've one day and one night in here. So maybe we need to do a little bit of this dance. Do a little dance. Make a little chop. Bounce around for a few days. Woo! Bounce around for a few days. Woo! Daniel, did the tick stay above the zero line? Good question. Not yet. It's trying. Looks like the bots are doing some of the buying here. Looking at that 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles. Coffee Addict's been talking about the DXY and the effects it has on the ES. And Mark is responding, I see extensive explanations about the DXY dumping and pumping and the effect to the indices, but I really don't see how it is tradable information by itself. It moves so fast. It's not reactable. I 100% agree. for me, the big light bulb moment, the big aha moment was when I stopped trying to understand why the market makes the moves it makes. What are the cause and effect behind it? And instead just try to grasp what it is doing. Is it going up or down? That's the thing to grasp, as opposed to why or what's affecting it, or what can I watch to see if it's going to go up or down, or whatever. Like, just what is it doing right now? And how good of a job is it doing of that? And I found the simplifying the way I look at it actually makes it easier. That the more understanding you seek, the harder it is to get clear, tradable information. You just create more noise. But everybody's different. That's the fun of it. You got to find what works for you. RK talking about the DXY. It's a great indicator, not intraday, but knowing that they did a swap at 7 a.m. Eastern this morning and weakened the dollar makes me more cautious when shorting the apparent weakness before the open. I like that. Being aware of it as a piece of data. Okay, well, we've printed the C period. So unfortunately, I would say as long as we stay inside the initial balance, as long as we stay inside the A and B period range, it's going to continue to chop and be very difficult to read. If we break the B period high or we break the A period low, we can look for continuation of a move from there. So if we break the B period high, we can look, can it continue higher? So basically the first thing is like, once it breaks the high, can it get above yesterday's high? If it does, can it find support? If so, can it get above the overnight high? If it does, can it find support? If so, can it fill the gap? You know, slowly but surely, we just monitor for continuation higher from there. And same thing if it breaks the low. Oh, well, there you go. Before I even leave, we get a poor high. So a poor high increases the odds that we're just pushing away from that poor high right now, but we're looking for support to come back and repair it. That would then trigger the test of yesterday's high and monitoring for continuation higher from there. So right as I'm walking away, that's a little bit bullish to see. Looking for support to come back and repair that poor high. Potential support is around 38.80. 38.76 and then 38.73. With that, I bid you farewell. Happy Monday. Happy trading. If you have not given me a thumbs up yet, there's 200 people here and I only got 96 thumbs up. I feel like we could break triple digis. Didgeridoo's. There we go. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you here tomorrow morning. Members of the brigade, saddle up. It's time to ride. We're gonna rock.